If something sounds cruel to do to dogs, that's because it probably is. Our dog training field, unfortunately, has a lot of bad information going around. There's one thing where the dog is always framed in a negative way, like the dog is a problem. He has a bad personality. He's dominant. He's spiteful. He's stupid. Things like that. And the reality is, none of those are true. Dogs are mostly doing behaviors that are normal for them, and they just kind of conflict with what people want. So, dogs will even lick other dogs or puppies' faces, and that's a natural behavior for them when they greet. But when they greet people, they jump up to access our faces and lick them, and people don't like dogs' paws on them. It's not something that we accept as far as like dog behavior directed towards people. Other normal dog behaviors include barking, moving quickly, running, jumping, digging, sometimes howling. And so people may view all of these as problems for us, but they're actually just normal dog behaviors, and we should expect them to do them from time to time. What we do with training is teach dogs when and where to do behaviors so that they more appropriately fit within our human world. And so that's a good thing. Where it turns bad is when people use normal, typical dog behaviors as justification to use harsh punishments on dogs. And that's what we see a lot of in our field. We even have people that make up terms like the dog is unbalanced. That's not an animal behavior term or concept you'll see in any scientific textbook. It's just a made up thing, and it's usually attached to treating dogs poorly, like we need to restrict their normal activities, behaviors, or even needs, like for enrichment and socialization, play, things like that. In addition, sometimes you'll see professionals try to say that the dog owners are the problem, like you don't have a dominant personality or the right energy level or something like that. And that likewise has nothing to do with dog behavior. Dogs will do behaviors based on what works for them. So they're basically seeking reinforcers, or you could look at that as rewards, like food, shelter, water, things to play with, things like that. And so it's basically finding things that help them survive and reproduce, just like any other animal. And in some of the worst cases, dogs that have legitimate phobias, fears, and anxieties are treated as if they are a problem and they need punishments. And so, unfortunately, some of these dogs are punished for the very thing that they are scared of. So, if you have a dog that is afraid of another dog and does not want to approach, some people will shock or hit that dog, for example, and that does nothing to alleviate or fix the fear towards the other dog. It actually will increase it. Another category of dog behavior can be behavior that's due to health reasons. So, if the dog has a medical issue, that could be causing a behavior. And likewise, that would be another thing you wouldn't want to be doing harsh punishments that cause fear and pain and adding those on to a dog who may already have something like pain from arthritis or a tumor or from seizures, any sort of thing like that. And some of the main contentions of behaviors explained in this way really break down to just people thinking the dog isn't doing what they want him to do. And that's where these descriptions come from, like the dog must be dominant or he must be spiteful and bad. And in reality, it's just a mischaracterization of what is actually going on, which can include any of the things we've just mentioned, like it's probably a normal dog behavior or one that is due to a very specific cause, like a medical issue. And if people describe their dog as stupid, it's usually not the dog that's the problem. It's just that the people don't know what to do for training. And that's typical. It's a very specialized field. It's not common knowledge necessarily. That's why we have a job as professionals, so we can help people learn what to do. That's very normal. There's nothing wrong with that. But it does help to not blame the dog, especially when it's not the dog that's inherently the issue. All of the dogs I've worked with have had very good intelligence and were all able to learn the training tasks when they were provided with appropriate motivation and rewards. Thus, the model we should be moving towards is one of empathy, where we can put ourselves in the perspective or mind of dogs and view why they may be acting the way they are, and then we can seek positive solutions to help dogs learn the behaviors we want them to do instead. This is also a good way to provide for dogs' needs if we're not allowing them to do their normal activities like walk with sniffing and running off leash and playing with toys like tug of war or solving puzzle toys where they extract treats or food out of them after figuring out how to do so. We can end up with dogs having more problems rather than less. People have their activities, like we like to read and watch movies. Some people like to knit. You might like to go to stores to collect baseball cards or something similar, stamps. So people have all of their different types of activities and hobbies, and dogs have them as well, but sometimes we inadvertently restrict them from them, and or there's bad advice going around that you should restrict dogs from these activities. In reality, we want to make sure we let dogs have a lot of fun and they can do things like run and sniff and play with other dogs, play with toys. Once we provide those things, dogs are going to end up being mentally better and less stressed, which sets them up for a good learning environment to learn behaviors that are like foundation or obedience behaviors, or manners if you want to call them that, and also learn anything else, trick behaviors, and to resolve behavior problems as well. So if a dog had anxiety, fear, aggression, reactivity, separation anxiety, anything like that, if we're not providing for dogs' needs, it's harder to resolve those behavior issues. In addition, if we don't provide for dogs' needs and fun activities, they will find their own behaviors to do. And as we mentioned before, those can be their normal behaviors that present problems for us. And so we do need to invest time into animal care and taking care of dogs' needs. One of the biggest ones is providing daily or close to daily walks for dogs and allowing them to sniff a lot along the way. And this provides for their mental and physical needs. Sniffing helps them relax. Sometimes it's presented as if you should never let your dog stop and sniff. That's really bad advice. They're designed to sniff and use their noses. They really enjoy doing it. They receive a lot of information, and they may also do things like urine mark to communicate with other dogs who will come and sniff that later on as well. And just like other animals, dogs learn from consequences to their actions, but these do not need to be things based on fear and pain. Consequences can be good things in the providing or removing of those things. So our goal in training is to use rewards to teach the dogs what we want them to do, and then we can remove rewards for behaviors we don't want them to do to decrease those. When we do this, we provide for dogs' needs and don't end up hurting them or causing negative effects. And in addition, we end up with positive associations with things. So for example, if we reward our dogs for walking past another dog in the environment, they will then view that situation as a positive one, rather than if you were to shock your dog, for example, and that would end up causing a negative association between the shock collar causing the pain with the sight of the other dog and or anything else in the environment, that dogs could end up generalizing to that too. And so that's something we would definitely want to avoid. We don't want that. We want to be able to create as many positive associations as we can, because that prevents fear, anxiety, and aggression. Therefore, I hope this provided you some basic information on how training works. We'll have plenty more videos in the future, and we're looking forward to covering everything about dogs in behavior training and welfare. Check out our free course on dog walking behavior and training.